it's your girl Blessing again. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you stopped by to see my face today. If it's the first time stopping by, I'm grateful you stopped by, and I promise you're going to go home with something if you keep watching. So my returning subscribers, I love you all. Thank you very much. You guys are the real G's. And for my first timers, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. If what I do on this channel interests you, or what you see today interests you, don't forget to share the link to others and encourage them to like and subscribe. In this channel, we narrate movies, mostly movies that are educative, and we share the lessons. Okay, thank you very much for listening. So today we're going to be talking about a movie called And Then Came Grace. It's an Omonioboli TV. If you haven't seen it, run to YouTube, search for Omonioboli TV, and you're going to see the movie Then Came Grace. And I would say it's a very interesting movie, and it has a lot to teach, especially for us that are Christians. It has a lot to teach. If you're a Christian, it kind of hits some things hard. If you're not a Christian, it also, I'm sure you're going to learn one or two also from this movie. All right, so I'll dive into the story now. Who is excited? Please get your popcorn, sit down, and enjoy this story with me as I share it. Okay? So, Then Came Grace. This movie is just a story about the young, fervent Christian girl called Grace. This young lady is very, very dedicated. She's a dedicated Christian. She dedicates her time and service to God. And she's the type of girl that everybody in her church talks about. You know, that type of girl that every parent wants their child to emulate. She was that kind of girl. She's also a nurse. So it's not like she's jobless. Some people might think, oh, maybe she doesn't have anything doing. That's why she had all the time to give. But no, she had a good job. She was a nurse, and she still had time. She made out time to serve God fervently. So, she also was like a daughter to the pastor in the church. The pastor in this church. Or the person running the church basically was a female pastor, right? So this girl, Grace, obviously with her good character, looks like she's adopted by the pastor already. So she looks up to the pastor as her mother, both spiritual and physical mom and guardian. So she was of age to get to be married, yeah, but somehow she didn't have a partner, no relationship, no boyfriend. And then it wasn't like bothering her, really. She wasn't like thinking about it. But obviously, as a grown-up lady, it's one of her prayer points, but it wasn't like bothering her. And then she got a new neighbor where she lives. She lived alone in a flat. She got a new neighbor, a cute guy. I was going to say a cute, handsome guy. So this neighbor of hers moved in and noticed that she's not always around. Either she's always out, kind of. So the first time they kind of had the conversation, I think she came back from work and then they said hi and he introduced himself. And then the next time she wanted to go to church and her car disappointed, and this lovely neighbor helped her with it. It's not like he could repair it, he did not come as the mechanic savior, as the normal thing that we would expect. But he went extra mile, got his mechanic to fix her car for her. So yeah, that's what he did. So Auntie Grace was like, oh, this my neighbor seems nice, yeah. But then, okay. So one day she came back from whatever she went for. I don't know if it was church, work, whatever. I just know she came back and then she met this neighbor with another friend. Were kind of drinking outside and playing loud music in his car. And then the neighbor, she greeted them, and the neighbor introduced her to his friend. And then the friend went, "Oh, you must be Grace. Are you really Grace? Oh, my friend have never stopped talking about you. Like, he's been saying so many things about you." And then she's wondering, waiting Oga they talk about me, because me and Oga never talk many things, you know? Like, what could he be telling his friend? They've not really had much conversation. So what exactly has he been telling his friend? Yeah. But then it seemed that this neighbor of hers has been developing some feelings for her, and then has been talking about her non-stop to his friend, and the friend couldn't hold his mouth, and he spewed the thing indirectly. So Grace was like, waiting, Oga they tell you about me. And we're like, the neighbor just covered up, like, don't mind him, he's tipsy right now, don't mind him. And then that was it. But afterwards, she asked him what he's been saying about her, and then he kind of said nothing really, just said that you're my good neighbor, that blah blah blah. So that way they kept talking. So they started talking more often and became kind of friends. So from just being neighbors, now they became friends, sort of. And this neighbor guy, how you would say, what is it? Oga is fine. Oga has acted as mechanic savior. And now Oga can cook. I don't know if I'm the only one, but you know, I'm sure most girls will like guys that can cook, yeah? Oga can cook. Like, he's a chef. That's like his, will I say, side business or his major business. I don't even know which one, but I shall know that Oga used to cook and deliver to people. So one day, they were talking, and then he mentioned something about it to her. Oh, did you see that she came back hungry and she didn't have food and she wanted to order? And then the guy, yeah, that was it. She didn't have food. She wanted to order food. And then boom, boom, boom on the door. There was a knock on the door, and she opened the door, and a guy was standing with a bag of food. Like, oh my dear savior. He came at the right time. Auntie carried food, oh, Auntie Grace carried food and ate. She like, wow. So that was how she knew that Oga could cook. That's a neighbor. Don't mind me, I'm trying to just make this whole thing. So that's how she knew the neighbor could cook. And then he said, it's my business. I also, I'm a chef. I take orders and I deliver to people's houses. So she started to use him as her go-to chef whenever she didn't cook. But then when she orders food from him, she orders a plate, Oga will deliver two. She orders a plate, Oga will deliver two. So that's how the bond started growing. They became friends. And then she noticed that he doesn't go to church. Of course, you expect that Sister Grace, Sister Grace, that's the right word for her, Sister Grace, because she's a very devoted Christian, yeah? Very, very devoted. You will expect that Sister Grace cannot settle for a brother that does not know God, or a brother that does not go to church. So finding out that this cute brother now does not go to church, the next thing is what? To kind of talk to him, to find out why, try to preach Christ to him. And she tried finding that out, and then it happened that the guy knew he wasn't like blank in anything concerning God. He wasn't. He's more like a prodigal son. Yeah? He's a prodigal son. He used to be a church boy that ran away, that kind of a thing. And that was because of his experiences. So when he shared it with her, he was molested by his pastor's child when he was growing up. And because his parents, especially his father, wanted to protect the name of the pastor and pastor's child and the church, he never took it up. Instead, they asked this young boy who was molested to cover it up, to hold it down, to keep quiet. And nothing was done. to salvage this boy's prestige or his, I don't know the right word right now. If you know the right word, please help me with it in the comment section. So they, instead of helping him, building, letting him know that he has parents that are going to stand by him by fighting this particular case. I mean, someone molested your child. You shouldn't be only bothered about trying to save the person's name. What about your own child, right? What happens to your child? If you're trying to protect the name of the person that molested your child, what happens to your own child? Is his own name the one that is good to be tarnished or whatever? So the boy felt he unloved. He felt like the parents didn't love him enough. He felt like that his dad chose the church over him. So he was broken. And then again, it's more like, oh, look at people that we should be looking up to, people that are the head of the church. This is the kind of sin they want to cover. They are covering. Then it doesn't make sense to actually go to church. Then I'll stop here and say, when someone when you make a mistake is when you think the church is about the person leading. Yeah, as a child of God, the church is not about the person leading. That's why people make mistake. Yeah, I'm digressing now from the movie. It's not about the person leading. That your pastor or your priest or your leader, your youth leader or choir leader, anybody that you look up to in the church, that person has committed a sin, an obvious sin that you've seen, and then maybe nobody's talking about it, or you expect that the person should be repentant and the person is not. It's not a good reason for you to leave the presence of God. It's not a good reason. Because you shouldn't be coming to church because of a person, right? You shouldn't be going to church because you like the preacher or you like the pastor. No, that's not a good reason. You should be going to church because you want to be in a place where you fellowship with fellow brethren, not because you like the person preaching. Like, I mean, I can go and cram Bible and come and quote the Bible for you. And then behind your backs, I'm doing something else. Right? When someone has a bad habit, it doesn't stop the person from delivering whatever he's crammed. Right? And there are people that struggle. They are Christians. They love God genuinely, but then they have this struggle. They have this sin they're struggling with. And then when you see them in that moment, in that sinful moment, if you stop loving God on your own, you're not doing them a favor. You're not harming them. You're harming yourself. Because at the end of the day, you will be the one to lose out, not them. I don't know if that makes sense. So in case you're still going to church because of the pastor, or because you like the priest, or because you like the youth leader, you're not doing the right thing, my brother or my sister, please. You're not doing the right thing. Take back. Change your purpose, your reason for actually going to church. Okay, let's stop there. Let me go back to my movie. So this guy felt really bad, and then he hated his dad for that. And because his dad was in that kind of in a high position in the church, and the person who molested him is the pastor's son, he kind of stopped going to church, and then he left home, and that was how he stopped actually going to church. He couldn't bring himself now to attend any church at all because of the people. Yeah, it was really hot. He needed someone to give him that closure, to redirect him, but there was obviously nobody there, so he withdrew. But the good thing is, even if he stopped going to church, he wasn't such a bad child. Yeah, he wasn't so much into the world as well. He just withdrew from church and he was on his own, but he barely prayed, he barely did anything. He was just living his life like that. So this sister Grace was trying to tell him, okay, I understand your hurt, but then I think you've heard this for so long, you need to let go for God to actually come true. If you keep holding that grudge against these people, even after maybe they tried to reach out later, years later, to ask for forgiveness, you're not forgiving them. You're holding yourself down as well. You can't move on if you keep holding on to that. So one day, she invited him to church, and that day was her birthday. He wanted to take her out, and then she said she will only agree if he comes to church. And then, voila, Oga agreed because he wanted to really take her out. So she invited him to church, and she had a presentation to make for the youths at the church on that day, and he was happy to come watch her make her presentation. And he came to church. And then when he came to church, and after the service, she went to greet him. Obviously, invited somebody to church. She wasn't expecting him to come. Remember, this guy hasn't been to church for years. She wasn't really expecting him to come. She just made the invitation, and he showed up. So cut to the man that, oh, you're going to go and say, you came. Thanks for coming. And then she went to do that before going about her other duties. And the pastor saw her and was like, what is Sister Grace doing with a worldly man? Did they already conclude our guy is worldly? Okay. All right. So she got a bit some questions. Grace now got that question from her pastor. What were you doing with that? I saw you with that guy. What were you doing with that worldly guy? Well, because obviously this was the first time seeing this guy in church. He wasn't one of their brothers. So they're like, what were you doing with that person, this one, that one? And then she just said, no, that is just my friend, my neighbor. And I invited him to church, and I was happy to see that he came. They were like, hope, just neighbor. Okay. But you know that you shouldn't be found in the council of, what's the word? I don't know, but Jesus. This were like that as a good Christian, you shouldn't be found in the midst of people that are not godly. And then she's like, she's a neighbor, and she was happy to see him in church. Meanwhile, there's this woman that wanted Grace to marry her son. So she came to pastor's office to tell pastor that she would like her son to marry Sister Grace. But then she now told pastor that she saw a vision. Maybe she had a revelation or maybe she had a dream, whichever one she had. And she had a dream where her son was wedding Sister Grace, and she was dancing and dancing, only for her son to now call her and tell her that he was planning to relocate to Nigeria because the son was living in the UK, and that she was planning to relocate to Nigeria and start serving in the pastor's church, and then eventually get married. So the woman just said, you see, the revelation of the wedding she saw with Grace and the son, plus the son's urgent decision to now come back to Nigeria and look for a wife in Nigeria and do serve in the church, is aligning. It means that God is saying something, that God has ordained that the Sister Grace will be the son's wife, and that, see, the son is also firebranded. That's the kind of man Sister Grace will need. Pastor, yeah, your son, I've been seeing his page. I've been following his page. He's really firebranded. I'll be so glad to have him come and render his services in the church. I'll be so happy. And for Sister Grace, we're going to pray about it. And then you are not like, Pastor, you don't need to pray too much. I've already seen it. And even my son has had the confirmation. Pastor said, okay, yeah, we will still pray about it. And then I don't think Pastor even prayed about it truthfully. Because the moment Pastor saw that guy with Sister Grace on Sunday, she remembered this stupid proposal and I told Grace about it. That look at, somebody wants her son, and they go by a guy is firebranded. Is the kind of person you are supposed to be with. This one is not this one that is worldly. It's that one you're supposed to be with, And Grace was like, okay, thank you very much, but I'm going to pray about it. Moreover, the neighbor hasn't proposed anything to her. He has not even asked her out. Yeah. So, but you know, they were already, that bond was already there. She was already feeling something, but you know, when there's already a bond, you're just waiting for the person to spill. But she was like, okay, I'm going to pray about it. And then she started praying about this guy. A friend of hers, who was her patient in the hospital, she saw the girl in the gym, and the girl appeared to her and told her that the cross ahead is not for her to carry. And then the guy bid her farewell and left. And when she woke up from that dream, she got a phone call that the girl was dead. So she went, she actually cried because she really got close to that patient. They were even calling the patient her bestie, that kind of a thing in the hospital. So she was so emotional. I think they even gave her a day off that day, so she didn't go to work. She just went to her neighbor's house to cry, and the guy really comforted her. And then now it was even confusing for us viewers, because now is it the cross of the guy who is not really a Christian, who you have a work to convert, that is not your cross to carry, or is the cross of the one that they say is fire branded that you're not supposed to carry? You know, it wasn't really clear. But then Grace kept praying about this guy. In the process of trying to pray about the guy, the neighbor guy started, you know, showing his affection at once, and made some comments that were insinuating he wanted her. So eventually the UK guy came back and decided to meet Grace. So they met up, and okay, Grace was like, he's not bad, he was tall and handsome, right? But then her heart wasn't yielding to him. Her heart was yielding more to the neighbor. So when the neighbor saw, because obviously he took her out and the UK guy took her out and brought her back. When the neighbor saw the UK guy, he knew that, it'd be like, I don't get rival, I need to tell this girl my mind. So eventually told Grace how he feels about her. But now Grace was caught up with these two guys. Which one will she choose? So she kept praying about it. But the more she prayed, the more peace she had with her neighbor, rather than the guy that the pastor was saying is the one for her. And she went to the pastor and said, look, pastor, you're like a mom to me. I want to tell you, this guy that you said is the person, I don't have peace. I've not found peace with him. Like, I don't have peace in my heart to be with him. That's when she now told the pastor that she's having peace more with her neighbor. The pastor now like, hey, I said it, but you told me we're just a neighbor. This one, she was like, as at then, we're just a neighbor, but just a few weeks ago, I started developing feelings. The pastor was like, kill that feelings. Kill that feelings. You don't need that kind of thing, Sister Grace. You don't need it. This other UK guy is the one. He's fire branded. He's the one that you want to be. Do not make mistake in your marriage. She was like, but what about my peace? Do you know what pastor said to her? That you see this thing, this love thing you're talking about, peace, it will come. It will come. Just obey the instruction of God. This one, God have said this one is your own. Marry him. Peace. When you obey God, God will now make the peace to come. The love will come. They just use God and say, God have said. Sister Grace went to work, told her best friend at work. Look at what's happening. Her best friend told her, if you're not having peace, no girl marry this guy. You cannot be marrying someone that you don't have peace with. You're not attracted to him physically. You know, you don't have peace living with him, and you want to agree to marry him because your pastor said they saw vision. The pastor said he's your husband. You know? And then she was like, but this pastor has always been the one guiding me. He's always down. The friend said, I've told you, you've just been pastor now. I've told you, don't make mistake, because it's not your pastor that will live with this guy at the end of the day. When you guys do, I do at the altar. Pastor will go home to her own house. You are the one that will go home in this guy's house. So tell me, will pastor come and stay in the bedroom with you and your husband? No. Will pastor be living under the same roof with you? No. So how do you possibly want to live with a guy that you don't have peace with and you're not attracted to me, you're attracted to someone else? It doesn't make any sense. And then at first she was not like, yeah, the God that spoke to them should speak to her. But later again, she said, but it's pastor that said, pastor that said, pastor that said. She eventually said no to her neighbor and went to marry and agreed to marry the one that pastor said is the husband. And pastor was acting based on the boy's mother said God told her. they act like this one said God sent this one and this one said God sent this one. So Grace agreed to marry the UK guy, not knowing that that was the cross they said it was not for her. Do you know that this UK guy wasn't even a practicing Christian? By practicing, I mean he wasn't an active Christian. He had mental health issues. And he's being controlled with medications, right? So he's on medications for his mental health issues. Grace wasn't aware. She wasn't told. The pastor wasn't even aware. This guy, this UK guy, does not love Grace. He doesn't have any feelings for Grace. He doesn't love her. He was only trying to marry Grace because the mom said he should marry Grace and that Grace would be a good wife for him. He was never the one that initiated the idea of marrying Grace. Neither did God show him anything about marrying Grace. It was all the mother's plan. Because Grace is a nurse and she's a wonderful Christian, a prayerful Christian, and an active Christian, a practicing Christian. That was why the mom chose her. That's because that if the son should get married to Grace, because she's a nurse, she'll be able to handle him medically, and because she's an active Christian, she'll be able to handle his case spiritually. That's why. So Grace is for her, Grace is like a medicine that will come and cure her son. Not that God sent anybody. And poor Grace, she did not know she was just a pawn. She agreed to marry the boy, thinking the boy really loved her and is the will of God for her. God saved her. Because on the wedding day, the guy grew cold feet. He was like, he's not happy about what he's about to do. The mom just called and said, nothing must go wrong today. Everything must happen now. But the guy, he was having that cold feet. So what he did was on the day of the wedding, the moment they started asking that question, that expecting to say I do, he grew mad. He shouted that he wasn't he exposed everything, that he wasn't going to marry Grace. No, he did not even say he would not marry Grace. He just exposed everything. And then after exposing it, Grace wanted to run away. We were like, you're not running anywhere. You have to stay here and complete what you started. But eventually Grace ran away. But before this scene, this one is now, I'm just narrating it, yeah? That neighbor who Grace rejected, she kept encouraging him to make peace with his father and forgive his father. And then the guy got a call that the father was ill in the hospital and really wanted to see him. So he didn't want to go. But on Grace's wedding day to that guy, he decided to go and visit his father in the hospital and make peace. Because his heart just told him, go and make peace. You need to let go to get healed. So he went to the hospital and made peace with his dad, forgave his dad, and then his dad passed. Meanwhile, Grace, her own wedding crashed and she decided to leave town. She ran him. She was able to escape on that wedding day. She escaped from the guy and then ran away. went somewhere to relax and cool her head. And then pastor was so sad because she never prayed actually. This guy's mom is a rich woman that always comes to church, yeah? Donates to church. And so the pastor was kind of carried away by, oh, the woman is going to, is well to do, she's going to look after my child. And look at the son is even prayer for me, because they went to the extent of actually posting a social media page where the boy does things as if he's prayerful. So they kind of deceived the pastor, and the pastor did not try manipulating Grace into doing her bidding. But the thing now is, she did it making Grace believe God has also spoken to her, whereas she knew she did not pray. Do you understand? So after some time, Grace came back to tell the pastor that, try. Yeah? Because I kept telling you, I didn't have peace. But what did you say? God has instructed you. God told you that this person is my wife. Anyway, this is a message to us all. Not every time that somebody will see for you. It's also an encouragement for us to get our prayer lives up to that point where God will speak to us directly. And again, listen to your spirit man, yeah? God speaks to us. God speaks to us. If you ask God anything, He's going to give it to you. But you just need to understand how He gives it. How does He speak to you? How does He give you what you ask? Right? How does He speak to you? How does He give you what you ask for? In as much as you're a Christian, you look up to your priest or your pastor, do not be blinded. Always ask God for your own spirit of discernment, so that you can discern and know when somebody is telling you what is right and what is not right. It's very good for you to have a spirit of discernment, so you know what is right and what is not right for yourself, especially when it comes to this marriage thing. When it comes to marriage thing, because you see what her friend said to her, when you marry this guy, who is going to live with this guy? Is it your pastor or yourself? Will you marry somebody because they said it's your will of God, and then you marry the person and the person turns you to punch him back? The same people that told you that God told them, will they come and be the punching bag for you? No. I don't think anybody should go to where they don't have peace of mind, especially in this marriage case. If you don't have peace of mind, run. It's the way of God telling you, no, don't go. Even if they say, yeah, love grows, but at least your peace will dey. You will have that peace of mind. You will have that calmness within you. Your spirit will not be troubled if you're doing the right thing. Anyways, fast forward to the story. After some time, Grace came back. Obviously, she didn't have to move out of her house because she cannot move out of the house because of this. But she shouted the pastor that she may not be coming back to her church. She will look for another church and be attending. That she may not come back to the pastor's church. She might look for another church and attend. But eventually, when she came back, she ran into her neighbor again and they spoke. And the guy was like, I'm sorry for what happened to you, but I still love you and I'm still willing to take you, to have you. That's love. Aww. So Grace was like, she needed time to process everything that happened. She needed time to actually heal from the hurt. And the guy was like, take all the time you want, but just know that I'm waiting right here. And he was a changed man. He has forgiven his dad. And fast forward to some months later, or years later, he got married to Grace, became firebranded brother in Grace's church. Grace did not change church after everything. In Grace's church, firebranded brother, now preaching in church, and they had a child even. But you see, sometimes some people just need someone to lift them up in the spirit, someone to lift them up from that pit. Okay? Not every time we see people in a pit that we let them drown. There are people that you should wait. If God is saying, don't go, don't lift them. It's not your job to lift them. Not everybody is your duty to lift. Yeah? But at the same time, there are people that is your duty to lift. So, if Grace decided not to even talk to the guy just because she found out the boy doesn't go to church, that boy would never have gotten the freedom in God by forgiving his dad and actually coming back to God. He wouldn't have. Right? So, it's just all about knowing how God communicates with us is very important. I hope you're learning something. Please do well to watch the movie yourself as well, and come back to this video and drop what you learned. Also drop what you've learned from me narrating the stories, and we can talk more about it in the comment section. If there's any movie that you feel you want me to watch and narrate, you can put it in the comment section as well. That's welcomed. And I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Thanks very much for your time. I love you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, okay? See you guys in my next video. Bye.